Got to start with you, because this is not just about the sell-off in commodities overall.
Right. It's partly a story of Brazil falling out of favor with investors, but it's really a story of someone who made really big promises and priced everything to perfection and then failed to deliver on it.
In 2012, he was worth $35 billion, the richest man in Brazil, the 7th richest on Earth. He said he would become #1, richer than Bill Gates, by 2015. 1 year later, everything collapsed. Long before the billions, before the headlines, before the courts and scandals, there was a boy living in the shadow of another man's greatness. Eike Batista was born in 1956, into a household where success was the oxygen of daily life. His father, Eike Batista, was one of the most respected engineers in Brazil, and later the president of Vale, one of the largest mining companies in the world. Eike grew up surrounded by maps, geological reports, and conversations about natural resources. He moved constantly: Brazil, Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, absorbing languages, cultures, and business mindsets. From the outside, this seemed like privilege, but for Eike, it was also a constant reminder that he wasn't the protagonist of his own story. He was Elieser's son. Bright, yes. Ambitious, absolutely. But always compared, never defined. This invisible weight would follow him into adulthood. A quiet, relentless drive to prove, to the world, to his father, to himself, that he could become greater than any man before him. That he could build something monumental. Eike didn't want to be successful. He wanted to be legendary. Eike's professional life began not in a boardroom, but in the chaos of Amazonian gold rush towns. In the early 1980s, Brazil's interior was a wild frontier filled with fortune hunters, informal miners, and improvised trade routes. Most businessmen avoided it. The risk was too high. The logistics were a nightmare. Fraud was everywhere. But where others saw disorder, Eike saw opportunity. He created an efficient system to buy gold directly from garimpeiros, small-scale miners offering fast payments, safe transportation, and access to international buyers. He wasn't mining gold. He was mining inefficiency. By the age of 23, he made his first million. By 30, he was running medium-scale mining operations. By 40, he was developing large industrial projects. And with each success, his confidence grew. He began to believe that mastery of complexity was his gift, that he could control any system, no matter how chaotic. This belief would later become both his superpower and his undoing. In the early 2000s, Eike Batista launched one of the most ambitious business ecosystems ever, attempted in Latin America. He created a series of companies, all ending with the letter X. OGX Oil, MMX Mining, LLX Logistics, MPX Energy, OSX Shipbuilding. To him, the X symbolized multiplication, creation, expansion. The idea that wealth, once unlocked, could grow exponentially. But the deeper truth was psychological. Eike loved symbols. He loved narratives. He loved the image of destiny, inevitability, grandeur. The X project wasn't just a group of companies. It was a mythology, and he was writing himself as the hero. Each company depended on the others. A port for the mines, ships for the oil, energy plants for the operations. It was a grand, interconnected vision, something that impressed investors and governments alike. Eike had charm, fluency, and a flawless pitch. He spoke like a man who had already seen the future, and the world believed him. Between 2006 and 2012, Brazil was booming. Foreign investment surged. The country was preparing to host the Olympics and the World Cup. China was buying unprecedented amounts of iron, oil, and resources. Eike positioned himself as the architect of a new Brazil. Brazil ready to step onto the world stage. He promised oil fields that would rival the giants. He promised energy complexes that would transform entire regions. He promised ports that would become the new Atlantic gateways. And for a moment it seemed real. International funds poured billions into his companies. His stock offerings were oversubscribed. Media outlets crowned him the future richest man in the world. In 2012, his net worth reached $35 billion. He bought a mansion on Rio's most expensive street. He bought a Lamborghini Aventador and parked it in his living room as decoration. He acquired a super yacht. He raced speedboats. He gave interviews about discipline, vision, and knowing how to multiply wealth. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a phenomenon, a celebrity, a national symbol. But behind the glamour, the cracks were already forming. OGX was Eike's crown jewel, the company that would make Brazil an oil superpower. The company that justified his astronomical valuations. He announced reserves in the billions. He said production would soon surpass expectations. He claimed his exploration technologies were superior to the competition. Investors trusted him. Analysts trusted him. Even government officials trusted him. But inside the company, engineers were growing worried. The wells produced far less than predicted. Some failed entirely. Internal reports warned of severe technical and geological problems. But the public announcements remained optimistic. Too optimistic. Eike's empire was built on projections. Beautiful, elegant projections, but not facts. And like all illusions, this one had a breaking point. Investigations followed. What they found was devastating. Allegations of insider trading, market manipulation, misleading investors, inflated projections, questionable transactions. In 2017, Eike was arrested. The images of him in a prison uniform shocked the world. He was eventually convicted, receiving a 30-year sentence, though appeals and legal complexities continue to this day. The man who once dreamed of becoming the richest on earth now stood in a cell, stripped of power, wealth, and reputation. People often say Eike was destroyed by greed. Others say he was a victim of Brazil's political and economic turmoil. Some insist he genuinely believed in the future he promised. But the deeper truth is far more human. Eike Batista was destroyed by his belief in his own myth. He built a narrative so grand, so seductive, so larger than life, that he eventually lost the ability to distinguish ambition from reality. He stopped listening. He stopped adapting. He stopped doubting. And when a man stops doubting, he stops seeing. The oil wasn't there. The projections were flawed. The empire was fragile. But Eike, confident, charismatic, unstoppable Eike, believed he could will success into existence. Today, Eike Batista remains one of the most controversial figures in Brazilian history. To some, he was a visionary who dared to dream big. To others, a symbol of excess, illusion, and financial recklessness. But one thing is certain. His rise and fall is more than a business story. It is a study of ambition, psychology, and the danger of unchecked confidence. Eike wanted to transform Brazil. Instead, he became a cautionary tale that will be studied for decades.